Imagine walking into a room filled with people who are eager to prove their intelligence, their status, their worth. Conversations are a battleground, each person subtly competing to outshine the others. You listen as they throw around big words, display their achievements, and assert their dominance in the social hierarchy. But then something strange happens. Someone in the room, seemingly oblivious to this game, acts differently. They do not rush to impress, they appear unconcerned with proving themselves. They even let others believe they are less intelligent than they truly are. At first, this might seem counterintuitive. Why would someone choose to appear foolish in a world that rewards intelligence, confidence, and strength? Why would a person willingly play the fool in society? And yet, if we look closely, we find that some of the wisest minds throughout history have done exactly this. They understood a secret about human nature that many overlook. And today we are going to explore this paradox, why playing the fool can be one of the most powerful strategies for navigating society, protecting yourself, and ultimately gaining an advantage over others. By the end of this discussion, you will understand why Schopenhauer, one of the greatest philosophers of all time, believed that the wisest among us do not always seek to appear wise. You will discover how this approach can shield you from unnecessary conflict, allow you to observe people more clearly, and even grant you unexpected power in social situations. And the most important revelation of all, the one that will truly change the way you see the world, will come at the end. So stay with me, because this might just transform the way you interact with others forever. Schopenhauer was a man who saw the world without illusions. He did not sugarcoat human nature. Instead, he exposed the raw and often uncomfortable truths about people, their vanities, their insecurities, and their relentless pursuit of superiority over others. According to him, much of what we call society is nothing more than a stage where people act out roles, trying to impress, manipulate, or outmaneuver each other. And within this game, the person who tries too hard to appear intelligent, successful, or powerful often becomes a target. Think about it. When someone walks into a room and immediately tries to assert their dominance, others begin to resist. People feel threatened by overt displays of superiority. They look for flaws, weaknesses, any sign of failure. The one who seeks admiration too eagerly often invites resentment instead, but the one who plays the fool, they disarm those around them. They become underestimated. They are ignored by those who hunger for competition. And in this invisibility, there is a unique kind of power. Schopenhauer argued that the ability to conceal one's true intelligence is a rare and valuable skill. He believed that the world is filled with deception and pretense, and the wisest among us do not announce their wisdom. Instead, they observe, they listen, they let others reveal themselves while they remain unnoticed, gathering knowledge without attracting unnecessary attention. Consider the historical figures who mastered this art. Now, take Socrates, for example. He famously claimed to know nothing. Even though his wisdom was profound, by appearing ignorant, he encouraged others to speak, to reveal their assumptions and contradictions. He used their own words to lead them to deeper realizations, and all the while he remained free from the arrogance that often accompanies intelligence. Or look at the legendary strategist Sun Tzu, who taught that deception is the essence of war. He advised rulers and generals to appear weak when they were strong, and strong when they were weak. By masking their true abilities, they gained the advantage over their enemies. The same principle applies in social dynamics. When you allow others to underestimate you, you gain the element of surprise. But why does this strategy work so well? The answer lies in human psychology. Most people crave recognition. They want to feel important. When someone willingly steps back and does not compete for attention, it confuses others. They begin to drop their guard. They stop seeing that person as a threat. This opens up a world of opportunity. Imagine a workplace where two colleagues are vying for a promotion. One of them constantly tries to impress the boss, talking about their achievements, making sure everyone knows how competent they are. The other quietly does their work, never boasting, never seeking validation. Who do you think is more dangerous in the long run? The loud one attracts attention, both positive and negative. The quiet one, however, goes unnoticed, but when the time is right, they strike, and because they have not drawn suspicion, their success appears effortless. This principle is not about perception. In the malicious sense, it is about wisdom. It is about knowing when to reveal your strengths and when to let others think you are not a threat. It is about patience, observation, and strategic thinking. But there is a deeper layer to this idea, one that extends beyond mere strategy. There is something profoundly liberating about not feeling the need to prove yourself all the time. When you stop caring about how others perceive you, you free yourself from the exhausting game of social validation. You gain inner peace. You stop feeling the pressure to compete in meaningless contests of ego. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the need to prove yourself. Maybe it was in a debate where you wanted to show your intelligence. Maybe it was in a social setting where you tried to impress people with your confidence. Maybe it was in your career where you worked tirelessly to gain recognition. And now ask yourself how much of that effort was truly necessary? How much of it brought you real fulfillment? Schopenhauer suggests that much of human suffering comes from our attachment to the opinions of others. The more we seek validation, the more we become slaves to the judgments of society. But the moment we let go of this need, we become truly free. And this brings us to an even greater insight, one that we will explore in the next part, because playing the fool is not just about strategy, it is about something far more profound. It is about mastering not only the social world but also mastering yourself. There is a paradox in human nature that few people recognize. Those who try the hardest to appear intelligent often reveal their insecurities. Those who seek recognition often repel it. But those who are comfortable with being underestimated, those who are not desperate to prove their worth, often hold the greatest power of all. This is because true intelligence does not need to be announced, true strength does not need to be displayed, and true confidence does not need validation. Schopenhauer understood this deeply. He believed that much of human interaction is driven by ego, the endless desire to assert oneself over others. People argue, debate, and compete not necessarily to seek the truth, but to prove that they are right. And yet, in the grand scheme of things, being right does not always matter. What matters is understanding, and the person who understands the dynamics of human nature can navigate the world far more effectively than the person who simply seeks to win arguments. Imagine a conversation between two people. One is eager to prove their intelligence. They dominate the discussion, correcting others, dismissing opposing views, and making sure that everyone knows just how knowledgeable they are. The other person, however, listens more than they speak. They ask questions rather than make declarations. They allow the first person to feel superior while quietly gathering insights about their character, their beliefs, and their weaknesses. Who holds the real power in this exchange? The one who plays the fool often gains the greatest advantage, because while others waste energy trying to establish their superiority, they are absorbing information, and in the long run, knowledge is power. But there is another even deeper layer to this philosophy. It is not just about gaining an advantage over others, it is about cultivating inner peace. When you no longer feel the need to prove yourself, when you are not controlled by the opinions of others, you become free. Schopenhauer believed that much of human suffering comes from our attachment to status, reputation, and validation. We chase recognition, fearing that without it, we are insignificant. But this is an illusion. The more we depend on external validation, the more we become slaves to the judgments of others. And the more we try to prove our intelligence, the more we risk exposing our own insecurities. This is why some of the greatest minds in history embraced simplicity. They did not seek to impress, they sought to understand. They did not crave admiration. They craved wisdom, and they understood that sometimes the best way to move through society is not by proclaiming one's brilliance but by letting others assume you are ordinary. Consider the story of Diogenes, the ancient Greek philosopher. He lived in a barrel, rejected material wealth, and often made a mockery of social conventions. Many saw him as a fool, but his wisdom was undeniable. When Alexander the Great, the most powerful man in the world at the time, approached him and offered to grant him any wish, Diogenes simply replied, "Move out of my sunlight." He had no interest in power, status, or recognition, and yet centuries later we still remember him, not as a fool, but as a man who saw through the illusions of society. There is a great power in detachment. When you stop seeking to prove yourself, when you let go of the need for recognition, you become untouchable. Insults no longer affect you. Criticism loses its sting, and people who once sought to challenge you find themselves without an opponent. But does this mean one should always play the fool? Not necessarily. The key is knowing when to reveal your wisdom, and knowing when to reveal your wisdom and when to conceal it. This is where true mastery lies. There are moments when showing your intelligence is necessary, when you must lead, when you must teach, when you must defend yourself. But more often than not, the most effective strategy is patience, observation, restraint. Sun Tzu, the ancient military strategist, wrote that all warfare is based on deception. The greatest victories are not won through brute force, but through strategy. And in the battlefield of social interactions, the same principle applies. Sometimes the best way to gain power is to make others believe you have none. But what about those who say that playing the fool is dishonest, that it is a form of manipulation? The truth is, every interaction in society involves some level of strategy. People wear masks, they present versions of themselves that they believe will be most accepted. Playing the fool is not about deception in the malicious sense. It is about understanding the game that is already being played and choosing not to participate in the same way that others do. It is about freeing yourself from the need to constantly prove your worth. Think about the people in your life. Think about those who are constantly seeking validation, who always need to be seen as the smartest in the room. And now think about those who are quiet, observant, and unassuming. Who do you respect more? Who do you trust more? The loudest voice is not always the strongest. The person who boasts of their intelligence is not always the most intelligent, and the person who appears foolish is often the one who sees the world most clearly. And this leads us to the next great insight, one that may completely change the way you think about success, influence, and personal freedom. Because playing the fool is not just a strategy for dealing with others, it is a pathway to something far greater, something that goes beyond power, beyond intelligence, beyond social games. It is a key to a deeper form of wisdom, one that only a few ever truly understand. There is a hidden advantage to playing the fool that goes beyond social strategy. It is not just about navigating human interactions or gaining an advantage over others. It is about something much deeper, something that lies at the core of personal freedom. Schopenhauer believed that true wisdom is not about accumulating knowledge for the sake of appearing intelligent. It is about understanding the nature of reality and freeing oneself from the illusions that trap most people. And one of the greatest illusions is the belief that we must constantly assert our intelligence, our worth, and our superiority to be respected. But what if the exact opposite were true? What if real power comes not from proving yourself, but from knowing yourself so deeply that you no longer feel the need to prove anything at all? When you embrace the role of the fool, something incredible happens. You begin to see the world with greater clarity. You stop engaging in unnecessary battles of ego. You no longer feel compelled to correct others just to be right. You become a silent observer in a world full of noise, and in this silence, you gain a rare kind of understanding. Consider the way most people live. They are consumed by competition, competing for recognition, for validation, for status. They spend their energy trying to convince others of their intelligence, their value, their superiority. And yet, in doing so, they reveal their deepest insecurity, the fear of being insignificant. But what if you could rise above this? What if you could exist in the world without being controlled by the opinions of others? What if you could interact with people without the constant need to prove your worth? This is where playing the fool becomes something more than just a strategy. It becomes a form of mastery over others. Yes, but more importantly, over yourself, because when you no longer care about appearing intelligent, you free yourself from one of the greatest burdens of human existence, the need for validation. This does not mean that you should stop learning, growing, or achieving. It does not mean that you should be indifferent to truth or knowledge, but it does mean that you are no longer a prisoner to the need to be recognized for these things. You cultivate wisdom for yourself, not for the approval of others. Think about the great thinkers, the true masters of wisdom. They were not the ones outing in the marketplace demanding to be seen as great. They were the ones who observed, who listened, who understood. They did not need to prove their intelligence because their intelligence was self evident. How the ancient Chinese philosopher expressed this beautifully when he wrote, "He who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know." This is the paradox of wisdom. Those who have the deepest understanding do not feel the need to announce it. Those who are truly strong do not need to prove their strength, and those who are truly free do not seek permission to be who they are. But how does this apply to your own life? How can you use this understanding to free yourself from unnecessary struggles and achieve a deeper sense of peace? The answer lies in detachment. When you stop trying to control how others perceive you, when you stop needing to be seen as the smartest or the most capable, you become untouchable. Insults lose their power, criticism becomes meaningless, praise becomes relevant. You are no longer at the mercy of society's expectations. This is not an easy path. It requires deep self awareness. It requires the ability to let go of your ego, to resist the temptation to correct, to argue, to prove. But once you master this, you gain something far greater than social approval. You gain true freedom. Think about the conflicts in your life, the arguments, the frustrations, the times you felt misunderstood. How many of them were caused by the need to be right? How many were fueled by the desire to be respected, to be acknowledged, to be seen in a certain way? And what if you could let go of all of that? There is a story about a Zen master who was insulted by a man in a crowd. The man shouted at him, trying to provoke a reaction. But the Zen master simply smiled and said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The man, confused, replied, "It still belongs to the one who offered it." The Zen master nodded and said, "Then I do not accept your insult." This is the essence of true wisdom. Not reacting, not engaging in unnecessary battles, not letting the ego dictate your actions. And this is the deeper lesson behind playing the fool. It is not about deception, it is about transcendence. But there is one final piece to this puzzle, one last and most profound insight that ties everything together. It is the secret that not only allows you to navigate society with ease, but also unlocks a deeper level of existence. And that is what we will uncover in the final part. There is one last and most profound truth about playing the fool. It is not just about strategy, not just about detachment from ego, and not just about moving through the world unnoticed while gaining deeper insight. It is something even greater, a secret that very few people ever truly understand. And that secret is this: the wisest people in history did not play the fool in society, they embraced the fool within themselves. What does this mean? It means they let go of the illusion of control. They freed themselves not only from the opinions of others, but from the rigid structures of the mind itself. They understood that most of what we take seriously in life, status, reputation, pride, is nothing more than a grand performance. And when you recognize that everything is a performance, you can step outside of it and begin to truly live. Schopenhauer believed that suffering comes from attachment, from our endless desire to control the world, to be respected, to be admired, to be, seen as intelligent and important. But what if you could let go of all of that? What if you could move through life without the weight of expectation, without the chains of self-importance, without the constant struggle to maintain an image? This is what the greatest minds understood. This is what Diogenes embodied when he rejected the luxuries of Athens. This is what Eleso meant when he spoke of flowing like water, adapting to whatever comes. This is what Zen masters practice when they embrace paradox and absurdity. Though the fool is not weighed down by the need to be right. The fool does not suffer from the burden of being taken seriously. The fool is free to explore, to question, to laugh, to move through life without fear. And in this freedom, there is a kind of enlightenment that those obsessed with their own intelligence will never reach. This is why so many wise men throughout history have chosen to live in a way that seems absurd to others, because they realized something most people never do. Life is not about proving yourself. Life is about experiencing, about understanding, about letting go. So, what does this mean for you? It means that the next time you feel the need to prove yourself, pause, ask yourself, who am I trying to impress? Why do I need validation? What would happen if I simply let go? It means that the next time someone underestimates you, instead of correcting them, observe. Watch how they reveal themselves. Watch how their assumptions blind them, and recognize the power in being underestimated. It means that the next time you feel the urge to argue, to assert your intelligence, to demand respect, consider the alternative. Consider what happens when you choose silence instead of noise, patience, and instead of ego, understanding instead of proving. Because the greatest lesson of all is this: those who are truly wise do not need to be seen as wise. Those who are truly powerful do not need to be recognized as powerful. And those who truly understand the world do not waste their time trying to convince others of their understanding. And so, the greatest irony of all is that by embracing the fool, you may actually become something far greater than what society considers intelligent. You may become something that cannot be measured by external validation, something that exists beyond the limits of ego, something that moves through life with clarity, wisdom, and a quiet, unshakable strength. The only question that remains is this: are you willing to let go? Are you willing to step outside the game? Are you willing to embrace the fool, not just in the eyes of society, but within yourself? Because if you are, then you will discover a freedom that few will ever know, and that more than intelligence, more than recognition, more than power is the greatest achievement of all. Thanks for looking. Subscribes for daily updates